Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a friend, a well known and an accomplished sports person, and a sports entrepreneur from Gurgaon, India, Mr. Rishi Narayan. Rishi, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Ashutosh. It's an absolute honor to be
Thank you.
on the brand called you,
Thank you.
considering the profile of people you had on the show before.
Thank you. Well, you got a very high profile yourself. Rishi is the managing director of RN Sports Marketing, which is India's foremost golf authority on golf. He's a gold medalist at the 1982 Asian Games. He's also a former All India Junior and All India Men's Amateur Champion. And Rishi has been named as one of the 30 most powerful people in Asian golf by Asia Pacific Golf Group Singapore and Golf Incorporated Magazine USA. So, Rishi, my first question. You had a remarkable journey from being a gold medalist at the 1982 Asian Games to a leading figure in sports marketing. What inspired you to pursue golf in the very first place?
It's kind of funny. Of course, I started as a kid when I was about 11, 12 years old,
Hmm,
playing in Calcutta. My dad used to play.
hmm,
But actually, what really sparked me was something very, I guess, lateral. I didn't want to do my undergraduate college in
okay.
Calcutta. I used to see
Hmm,
my friends at Xavier's College
hmm,
spend 3 years of their time in the college canteen
hmm.
and whiling away 3 years. And I said, that's not something I want to do. So
Correct.
I said that I want to get a scholarship. Then I discovered somewhere in the library that there's these things called college golf scholarships.
Hmm.
Nobody had ever heard of such a thing. And I decided, okay, let me try that. So then I decided to take to golf and I became a scratch golfer. I was pretty much ranked India's number one amateur by the time I was in my 12th grade when I started applying to all the US colleges. And that was my motivation really is to get a scholarship to go and play golf in America and get my education in the US.
How amazing. How amazing. And after golf, you have successfully transitioned from an athlete to an entrepreneur. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in making this shift?
Well, honestly, it was like a business mindset and understanding of how you have to be very business-like. Because
Hmm,
for me, golf was my passion. In the beginning, I was like, everything was very friendly, working with sponsors and organizers. I didn't have contracts and, all those kind of things. So that was the biggest difficult transition for my mindset to learn how to be very business-like about things. So I was fortunate to get an opportunity to work with IMG, which is the world's leading sports marketing company, and that's where I learned about how to apply business principles to my passion of golf.
hmm. How wonderful. You're also the editor in chief of Golf Digest India, the magazine that I see very often. How do you see the role of media in shaping India's golf ecosystem?
Well, yeah, just an update. Now I just publish a digital thing. I don't
Yep.
do the Golf Digest
Hmm,
print. I
hmm,
do a digital edition called
yep.
India Golf Weekly,
Hmm,
and that's the idea was that it's very important to keep a healthy ecosystem of golf. That people should know what's going on. I mean,
correct.
somebody needs to be like a unifying platform where people in Pune, Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore can know what's going on all over the country
Hmm,
as well as people involved in the administration of the game to know what's going on at clubs all over the country. So I
hmm.
feel it's vitally important.
Very interesting. So let's now talk about golf in India, Rishi. And I've been an average golfer for the last 25 years. How do you assess the current state of golf in India compared to other Asian countries? And what are some of the biggest challenges facing Indian golf today?
So India has always produced a lot of golfing talent, disproportionate to the numbers of people. Frankly, India has a very small number of golfers.
Correct.
Maybe it's somewhere around 100, golfers.
Hmm.
Whereas, for example, in our neighboring countries like Thailand, Thailand has 450,000
Wow.
registered domestic golfers.
Hmm.
Plus, they get, you know, I think 500,000 tourists a year, which India doesn't
Correct.
get at all. Malaysia has 150,000. A small little tiny city state like Singapore has 90,000 registered golfers, almost the same as the whole of India.
Correct.
So, the biggest challenge and why our numbers are so small is because of the problem of aggregating land in the size that we need to build golf courses. As
Correct.
everybody knows, land is at such a premium, and land holding is so fragmented in India that to put together 100, 200 acres to build a golf project is a big challenge in this country.
Correct.
So that's the single biggest problem.
Well said. But golf has also been seen as an elite sport in India. And every so often you see some leaders saying, why do we need so much land for 72 people to come and play? Do you think this perception is beginning to change?
It's changing very slowly. I think it's incumbent on the golf industry and authorities and media in the country to change that perception, make everybody understand what a role golf can play actually as an industry. Golf is much more than a sport. It's a real estate driver. It's an investment catalyst for foreign institutional investors setting up plants and offices, investing in the country. It's a huge tourism driver.
Right.
As you know, it's a real estate driver. That's a big one. It's an environmental, green belt. It keeps people healthy. It's a sport that people can engage in till they are 90 years old. So there's so many benefits to the country's economy and people's health. And I think that is the perception that we need to, change in the country and make people more aware of what golf can do for our economy and for our society.
Very well said. And India has produced some very talented golfers like yourself or Ajeev Milkha Singh or an Anirban Lahiri and many more. What would you say are some of the factors that have contributed to their success?
Well, honestly, let me first put it out there. Jeev and Arjun are in a very different category than I was. Okay. I never got to their level. They played on the PGA Tour and stuff, which was very, very, very aspirational for me. But honestly, it's been sheer individual, I would say, tenacity and determination that has helped them get to the level that they did. It was not really an institutional thing, unfortunately, because after them, there's not, we've not really been able to produce those kind of players consistently. It was a one-off that happened. That generation produced three players: Jeev Milkha Singh, Jyoti Randhawa, and Arjun Atwan.
Correct.
Although we've had, the Shiv Kapoor and SSP Chaurasia, Gaganjeet Bhullar, some of those kind of guys come up afterwards. But it's family and it's individual effort really up to now. We need to make that more institutional so it can repeat and be endured.
Yeah. The other aspect that drives any sport is spectators and fans. What needs to be done to attract more spectators and more fans to golf?
The number one thing is education. People need to understand the game. Even if they don't have access to play the game, people follow the game even if they don't play it. I'll give it a personal example really quick to illustrate this. When I went to US to do college, I started watching American football, where those guys wear helmets and shoulder pads and they run around pushing each other and hitting each other.
Yeah.
So I used to think it's the dumbest game. I couldn't understand it. There were two guys pushing each other in one corner of the field, but the ball is in some other corner of the field. And I was like, what the hell, what the hell is going on? But once my friends explained the game and the strategy and the scoring and how everything worked, I got hooked. Even today, I mean, just recently I watched, a 5-part series on Netflix called Quarterbacks and Receivers. It's a fascinating game. So my point being that if people understand and appreciate all the nuances of the game, the strategy, the kind of thinking that goes in to the game, they can watch it and they can spectate it without having access to play it. I never played American football, but I love watching it.
Absolutely.
I think we need to educate our audience.
Correct. But when you were talking about some of these big stars, you were also saying that a lot of family support has gone in. and
Yeah.
maybe individual support. But unlike cricket or maybe badminton, golf lacks a strong grassroots development program. How can
Yes.
this be improved? And I know some companies are beginning to get into sponsorship.
Yeah, so grassroots really is about expanding the base at the
Hmm.
bottom, more and more kids getting into the sport. Obviously, the number one thing is maybe more driving ranges. If we
Yeah.
can't build golf courses fast enough, we can
Hmm.
build driving ranges where kids can go and learn.
Hmm.
And of course, we need the existing clubs and courses to really open up their facilities for more kids to join, give
Hmm.
the kids access to the golf course. The courses are so busy, sometimes the kids don't have access to the course.
Hmm.
So that realization that we need to grow the base of the game,
Hmm.
get more kids into the game is number one at all the clubs.
Hmm.
Second is we need to train our coaches better
Yeah.
because a good coach pulls in a lot of people.
Hmm.
But if the coaches are not so well trained, then a kid can get slightly jaded or he feels he's not making progress, gets frustrated, then he can leave the sport.
Hmm.
So good quality coaching and more facilities where they can learn the game is
And
what
as
we
you said, access to more courses.
yes, yes,
Courses are still very, very restricted and
yes, yes,
elite. But
correct.
with rising young stars, and I see a lot of young people who are now getting into the game, do you
Yes.
think India has a chance to produce a world golf champion in the next 10 years?
I mean, there's always a chance. We've got some very talented kids out there.
Yeah.
Not enough of them. You
Hmm.
know, you need 100 really talented kids who are knocking
Hmm.
on the door in order to
Correct.
produce one world champion.
Hmm.
Uh, but we have some talent. I think there's a lot of work because the other countries are moving so quickly.
Hmm.
They are putting in so much resources and they have so many facilities for world class standards which the kids have access to.
Hmm.
So if you ask me, the gap is actually getting larger between, India is maybe going at this speed and the
Hmm.
rest of the world is going at that
Wow.
speed. So the
Hmm.
gap is actually getting wider and
Wider.
wider as the
Hmm.
years go on.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we really need to approach this on a war footing if
Hmm.
we're going to keep pace and be able to produce some champions in the near future.
Well said. You also spoke a few minutes back about the need for good coaches. And my next question is, are Indian players getting enough training in mental conditioning and sports psychology, which is crucial not just for golf, but any sport?
Well, there's increasing number of sports psychologists and mental trainers in India. It was an unknown profession, say 20 years ago.
Mm.
But today there are quite a few guys who are dedicated. But sure, we need more because
Mm.
we need to increase the access that the kids have to that. We need to maybe have some training courses, some certification courses, so that
Mm.
kids know that these guys are qualified. Today, it's almost like anybody who goes out and says, "I'm a mental coach."
Mm.
Can, depending, he tries to get some students, and if the students have success, then more students go to him. Students don't have success, and it's all word of mouth. There's no
Right.
certification, there's no formal training program. So I
Mm.
think that really needs to be addressed, and it's a very important point that you've touched on, Ashutosh,
Mm.
is, and not just for golf, but I
Yeah.
think for all sports,
Correct.
is
Correct.
is better mental training. Because as you know, in most sports, once you get to a certain level, the difference is all in the mind. It's all in
Absolutely
the mind.
right. Absolutely. But my next question is about technology and how is technology like Trackman simulators, AI-based analytics beginning to impact golf in India?
Globally, it's having a huge
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious when you go to the driving range at an
Mm.
elite professional tournament like the PGA Tour,
Mm. Mm.
every player has a little, swing analysis machine parked
Mm.
next to his
Mm.
set of golf clubs.
Mm.
And he's recording every single shot that he's hitting, which gives him all the feedback and the data.
Mm. Mm.
So kids today at the elite level have realized that they're trying to, keep data. They've got their apps that are being used, which help you track and analyze your swing. So it's starting to get used, but definitely better understanding, more access, because some of these machines are quite expensive. They're
Mm.
not made in India; they have to be imported. So we need to have those kind of machines on a shared basis.
Mm.
Probably the clubs and institutions need to have those accessible on a rental basis to the kids
Mm.
because every
Mm.
kid can't afford to buy a 5 lakh or a 10 lakh
Correct.
machine, obviously.
Correct.
So there is awareness now amongst elite players, but
Mm,
definitely they need more
more.
access to these
Amazing.
machines. Yeah.
Amazing. Uh, India, Rishi has some absolutely stunning golf courses. The one that I love the most is the DLF golf course, which I play. But my question to you is, what makes Indian golf courses so unique?
Well, obviously we have all the different locations and the
Yeah.
geographies. We have courses in the mountains like in Srinagar
Mm,
and Pahalgam, which are up at 9 to 10,000 feet altitude. And then we do have rolling hills in the south,
yeah.
Uti, Coimbatore, sorry, not Coimbatore, but Uti and Kodi, and
Mm,
those kind of hilly courses. Um, Desert courses as well, in Jaipur, Rajasthan, etc. So
mm,
yeah, the courses are very diverse, but we definitely need more of them, and we need more of them to upgrade themselves to global standards.
mm,
Today, there's just a handful of golf courses that are
yeah.
conditioned the way the world-class courses are conditioned.
Mm,
And that's what helps our players get ready to compete internationally.
well said.
So besides just the beauty, we also need the course quality and conditions to be
Mm,
consistent with international standards. So that's
amazing.
that's a challenge today.
Yeah. And your response gives me a segue to my next question is that how do Indian golf courses compare to those in Europe, Asia, and maybe Southeast Asia in terms of infrastructure and maintenance?
So, again, as I said in the last couple of sentences, that there are just a handful of courses in India that have
Mm.
been able to maintain themselves at world-class level. I don't want to name them because
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
if I leave
absolutely.
somebody out, they might feel.
No, 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 no names needed at all. Mm.
But yeah, so it's just a handful of courses that are keeping themselves at world-class standards.
Mm.
There's some challenges. Number one is that we some of these courses are just too busy, so
Mm.
they're not able to upkeep maintain themselves at
Yeah.
that level
Mm.
because there's just too many people playing. There's too much wear and tear.
Mm.
The other thing is, of course, training of the greenskeepers. So there's a profession called golf course superintendents or greenskeeping,
Mm.
and that is a very very scientific profession.
Mm.
A lot of education is required in that area, and
Mm.
that will help. The more trained and certified greenskeepers we have, the
Mm.
better our course conditions
Yeah.
will be. So that's in terms of the condition. In terms of infrastructure, again, just maybe a handful of courses that have infrastructure comparable to the good courses in the Far East,
Mm.
um, mainly because of lack of space. Golf courses in India have been compressed into
Yeah.
smaller spaces,
Mm.
whereas in other countries they have the luxury of space, so they can build
Yeah.
bigger clubhouses, bigger driving
Mm.
ranges,
Mm.
bigger lawns where people can sit and watch the game, etc.
Yeah.
So here we are short on space. So I think the time has come. The market is ready for building these world-class courses. We need to
Mm.
find a way to convince state governments to allow such courses to come up and encourage it because
Mm.
of all the benefits that it can bring to the local economy
Correct.
and to the environment.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's the next phase.
Very interesting. And what you're really saying is that governments can play a big role, even from the perspective of tourism. The number of people who will come in, we don't seem to get too many golf tourists into our country.
Absolutely. I think again we have to educate the government on the potential of golf tourism, the kind of revenue it can bring the
Mm.
country. The latest example of a country that has gone from third world to a golf tourism destination is Vietnam.
Correct.
The Vietnam has built 80 new golf courses in the last 10 years,
Amazing.
and most of them are absolutely stunning world-class
Yep.
courses. And
Mm.
right now, the Vietnam government is calling on real estate developers in Vietnam and issuing licenses.
Mm.
So these are government licenses to actually acquire and build another 100 golf courses in the next 5 to 10 years. So the Vietnam government has made a call. They are going after, there's a policy to issue licenses to encourage real estate developers to build 100 new courses in the next 10 years. And that
Incredible.
is the kind of strategic thinking that
Mm.
governments have made. Uh, this is happening right now in Vietnam.
Amazing.
Another great example is in Turkey, a town called Belek,
Mm-hmm.
right, where the government gave licenses and has built 15 world-class courses contiguously in
Mm.
one line, in one, and created a world-class destination called Belek, Turkey. Google it, it is absolutely mind-blowing. And that destination attracts 5 million tourists a year.
Amazing. Amazing.
So there is so much potential
Correct.
for India to also do that.
Correct.
And I just, hope that the golf industry can get its point across to the state
Mm.
governments,
I know.
and some state will take this up very soon.
Very well said. I have time for two more questions for you. Um, and I think you already answered my next question partly. Do you see India becoming a golf tourism hub in Asia?
It can only happen, Ashutosh, if what we just talked about,
Mm.
transpires. I think the time is ripe. We have huge golf markets in Southeast Asia who are looking for places to go
Yeah.
and play. The
Mm.
Koreans and the Japanese, even the people from Eastern Europe and Europe, they keep looking for places to go to in the winter, where
Correct.
the weather is nice, it's sunny, and they can play golf.
Mm.
But it has to be a call by a state government that let's go out and build a golf destination.
Mm.
And if somebody does that in the next few years, it may take 10 years for the whole
Yeah.
destination to develop.
Mm.
But I'm very hopeful that it can happen.
Mm. Well said. And my last question for you, Rishi. Looking back at your own journey, what advice would you have for young aspiring golfers and sports entrepreneurs in our country?
Well, the advice is that golf is a very vibrant field. Just,
Mm.
if you don't make it as a player, because only a very small percentage, 1 or 2% of really good players actually make a
Correct.
profession as a player,
Mm.
as a tour player. But there are lots of other professions available in golf.
Mm.
Golf has a very diverse set of occupations,
Mhm.
right from managing clubs,
Mm.
right, being a general manager of a club, learning how to maintain the golf courses, learning how to run the golf operations and run tournaments, bring in sponsorship, do marketing.
Mm.
So there's that whole side of running golf facilities.
Right.
Then there's the player development side, coaching, physiotherapy, mental coaching. Club fitting is a very big scientific thing.
Mm.
Golf club fitting, golf club sales, marketing,
Mm.
that whole side of the industry is also very big.
Mm.
So I would say to young people that you should take a plunge in golf.
Mm.
There's a very vibrant ecosystem. You can also go global today just because of the internet and access.
Right.
And it's a huge economy. The golf economy globally is massive. It's like
Right.
a $50 billion economy.
Mm.
And there are 60 million golf players in the world. So it's massive. I think the potential for India is to become like, just golf can contribute $2 to $3 billion a year to the economy of India,
Amazing.
and we have to work with that in mind and look at it holistically as what the game can do for the country's economy.
Absolutely. And on that note, and your amazing words, 60 million golfers around the world, 150,000 in India. Thank you, Rishi, for speaking to me about your own incredible journey. Thank you for speaking to me about so many different aspects of golf. As I mentioned, I play golf 4 times a week, but it's such an amazing game. There's so much of your own mental conditioning that is needed, and every day is a different day on the same hole. Thank you for talking to me about the the game in India. What are the opportunities that exist? What needs to be done, not just for courses, but for young players as well. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thanks very much, Ashutosh. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.